What's up, YouTube? How y'all doing today? Hope y'all are doing awesome. Today is September 1st, National Preparedness Month, and I'm going to be going through and doing a video a day for that. And I'm going to keep them short. I did this last year. Videos got a little bit long, and it still did decent, did well. It was the Seeds of Survival. Went through all my Seeds of Survival. Did a video every other day, and it got the videos were kind of long, which is fine. But this year I'm going to kind of try to keep them a little shorter, just little quick little videos. But today, since it's day one, we're going to kind of go back to the very, very basics of what is prepping, like what is preparedness. National Preparedness Month. So some people may not know what it is. Most of you probably do. I don't know what prepping is, but some of you may not. And this kind of goes for you guys. What is prepping, or what is a prepper? A prepper is one who gathers resources, makes plans, and hones skills in preparation for surviving a major disaster, catastrophe, or chaos. That's what the dictionary calls preparedness, or a prepper. Which is basically, there's shorter versions of that. You can make up your own. The stockpiling of physical insurance against potential chaos, or whatever. But that's what prepping is. Prepping is basically the gathering of resources and making your plan and honing skills. But now we kind of get into well, where do I start? What do I prep? Well, first you start with food, obviously. Prep food. A lot of the preppers, they geek out on the guns and the ammo, and they fight gas masks and all the cool stuff. You do need that, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But you do need some of that. But your first and foremost prep that's going to keep you alive is food. How much food? Well, that depends on the size of your family and the length of whatever SHTF is. But what to prep food? Your short-term food, like your fridge and your freezer. If something happens today, just say you have a storm or something happens, whatever it is, the world's getting over, the world's done. We're sorry, I have a little cold today, so hopefully you can bear with me a little bit. Kind of plugged up. Gonna try not to sniffle it up too much, but anyway, something were to happen like right now today, the first thing you do is go for your fridge and then your freezer. That usually lasts you a couple of weeks. You got a couple of weeks, maybe a little longer in there, but without power, your fridge is gonna go down quick. Your freezer is gonna go down next. So you got a few weeks there, go for that first. Get all that done. Eat your frozen meats, eat your, your whatever. Get all that done. Eat it up. And then your intermediate or midterm, that's like your working pantry. Most people will say 3 months, a 3 month working pantry where you rotate it in and out. That's what you eat on a regular basis. You eat it. That usually lasts a few months. That's where you got like your dry goods, your pastas, your canned goods, your stuff like that. The stuff you eat a lot, but can still go bad within a year, within even a few months. And then your long term is, that's like long term, that's years. That's, start with a year, start with a year's worth of long term preps. And that's your food storage, your food buckets, your canned goods, your stuff like that. That's also production, your gardening, your livestock, if you have room, your chickens, if you can have chickens, if you can have rabbits, if you can have goats, cows, if you've got big enough place for it. If not, then that's your food storage, your buckets, and if you can have a little garden on your patio that's long term. That's long-term stuff. Next one is probably even more important and more harder to store and to work on, to prep, is water. Where are you going to get your water? How much water? 3 gallons per person per day. 3 gallons. You can only go 3 days without water and you die. But 3 gallons, that's a lot. If you've got a big family, that's a lot of water. It's 1 gallon to drink, because you gotta have, a lot of people say you only need a gallon of water to live. Yeah, you only need a gallon of water to live. But you've also got to use a gallon of water to cook with. The same water you've got to use to cook, because once you get down into that food storage, it's all water based. You just boil water, throw it in there, and boom, there you go. You're not like prepping some full-on meals, so you need a gallon to drink, a gallon to cook, and a gallon to clean with. Wash your dishes, wash your your body. Take a little sponge bath with a gallon of water. Will that take a whole gallon? I don't know. It just depends. But if you plan on 3 gallons of water per person per day, and you end up with a surplus. Well, you end up with a surplus. But water is big and bulky and heavy, and so you've got to have a way to make more water. Rainwater catchment. If you're near a body of water, you just got to be careful of that because everybody else has got that same plan. If you're going out to like the local lake to get water, everybody's going to the local lake to get water. So you've got to have a plan. Dig a well if you've got a big enough yard or whatever. Water's tough, but it's important. That's number 2 on the rules of 3. 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. You can only go 3 days. And that's not, well, it's been 3 days, I better go get a drink. No, that's 3 days and you die. Water's very important. Next is medical supplies. All of it. Have everything. Tourniquets, gauze, Band-Aids, splints, anything so you can treat anything from just a little cut on your finger to a bullet wound. You got to be able to have the supplies to pack a gunshot wound and enough to treat that wound for a month or so until it's fully healed. You are your own first responder. If it's chaos and there's no ambulance to come and get you and no hospital to take you to, you're in charge of anything like that. You go out and you sprain an ankle or you break a bone or you've got to be able to take care of that. They're not coming for you. They're not going to help you out. So you've got to have all the medical supplies, everything. Tourniquets, stockpile them. Buckets and buckets full of tourniquets, buckets and buckets full of gauze. The other thing is over-the-counter medicine, OTCs. Have ibuprofen, have Tylenol, have all of it. All of it. Peroxide, alcohol, all of it. Have everything. The next is guns and ammo. The actual gear to protect that food and ammo. The food and water will keep you alive, and the medical supplies, but the guns will help protect that so that somebody else doesn't come in there and try and take that from you. So guns and ammo, how many guns? That's a question that doesn't have a correct answer. As many as you want, as many as you need, as many as you think you have to have. But do just know that if you stockpile a room full of guns and stack ammo to the ceiling and you get forced out by people, if people come and force you to leave, you can't take all that with you. You're not going to load up all your guns and all your ammo and all that and all your food and all your supplies and take it with you. So you just basically armed the enemy and fed the enemy if they come in. So you've got to have a way to protect that. But if you have too many guns, anyway, guns, ammo, have guns. There's those, 22 long rifle, a long rifle for hunting if you have to. Don't recommend hunting, but if you have to have a long rifle or if somebody's, a threat's coming and you want to, but mostly you want a carbine like an AR-15 or an AK-47 or a pistol caliber carbine, and you want a handgun at least. Those two, at least, you got to have those 2 guns. Something that you can throw your rifle on, put your sidearm on, a few extra magazines with bullets, and you go to battle if needed. I don't recommend going and battling, but if you need to, you can go to battle. But that's anything above that, it helps. A shotgun, 12 gauge, your 22s, your 22 long rifles, your long guns, those are also could be necessary, but not as necessary. You got to have at least a carbine and a handgun, and at least enough bullets to feed them for a year or so, or a few months, just in case. But the more the better as far as your ammo, because if you happen to get into a lot of gunfights, you're gonna run out of ammo quick. The ammo truck ain't coming. You're not gonna just go up to the store and buy more. Anyway. Try to keep it short. That's National Preparedness 2025 Day 1. What is prepping? Simple, basics, back to the basics. We'll get a little bit more in depth as we go, but I'm going to start basic and then kind of work my way a little more depth to it. So anyway, appreciate y'all watching. I love you guys. Wouldn't do it without you. Couldn't do it without you. Do the YouTube stuff. Like, subscribe, comment. You know the drill. I don't have to tell you. You've been watching YouTube for a long time. But anyway, do the things. Love y'all. Couldn't do it without you. I'll see you in the next one.